We thought long and hard about what it means for Seneca to be fronting this year's Grid of Legends tournament.
And it was only right that this legend sitting next to me here should pick the opening race.
For me, there was only ever one choice. A place that means so much to me.
For this tournament, I've handpicked a roster of cars that, if I do say so myself, is very, very nice.
We've invited all of last season's top teams to compete.
And one by one, we're going to eliminate them.
No guts, no glory.
Ever been watching a race and thought, you know what would make this race better? Another race. Well, wonder no more. Drivers will be separated into different vehicle classes, with each group competing for their own victory. Try to keep your eyes peeled, because where there's more races, there's more drama, higher stakes, and bigger battles. Don't even think about blinking, because there'll be a whole lot to keep track of. I'm gonna need a good lie down after this one.
Hey, what is up guys, welcome back to the channel. Now today's video, let's talk Grid Legends and DLC 2, which released only a few days ago. Now I've spent my time, I've been through the DLC, played it, and I absolutely must say this is a great addition to the game. Now if you remember my kind of preview of this when they first launched car silhouettes, I assumed it was going to actually be Le Mans, and I've seen a lot of people really crying out for Le Mans to return. If you remember it from the original race driver grid, you kind of had an end of season event. Now it wasn't quite that, but it was exactly what I wanted in this game. So is this DLC absolutely perfect? If you've never even touched Grid Legends, is this a reason for you to buy the game? Honestly, as much as I loved this DLC, no. And there's a few reasons for that. Now, it essentially feels a little bit more of the same. Now, the game's had plenty of updates since release, way back in February at this point. It's had a previous DLC pack, and obviously you've got the base game, which is quite a big racing game, to be fair. The career mode feels like it goes on for ages, and this story mode kind of just feels like a continuation of that. It doesn't quite feel as, you know, sort of, I guess, dull as the main story of the game. Honestly, I found that to be so pointless. It was just a bunch of random missions with a bit of a weird story and the live action and such in the background. It feels like it's more of a continuation of some of the updates that have been brought in, and obviously a bit of the DLC which we're getting here, kind of all thrown in and mixed and mashed together. And that is my main issue with this DLC. Although it's kind of themed around Mount Fuji and endurance racing, yeah, it kind of just loses its way after the first event. So when you start out, you'll start out in the brand new car, one of should I say, the Bentley GT3. In my opinion, great addition to the GT3 cars which we have in this game. So happy to see it. And then you'll kind of do a bit of an endurance event, and by endurance I mean you're kind of on a timer. Once the timer runs out, the first car in the classes to finish will end the event for everyone else. Then all of a sudden you're kind of just thrown into these random assortment events for like the first, probably I'd say kind of half to nearly 3/4 of the game. You'll see kind of like what you've just seen, a dust storm kind of race with the off-roaders. I believe there's 2 events for them. Really just felt kind of weird considering it's supposed to be an endurance DLC. Then you'll have some electric racing, as you can see here, on one of the most famous circuits for Grid, or should I say in the Grid franchise. However, it just kind of again feels weird when you just assume this is all going to be sort of, you know, group car focused endurance racing. And then obviously you'll have a little bit of a offbeat one, which is kind of expected. I actually expected this to be the odd event, which is what you're seeing here, the key car. This is another edition, the AutoZam AZ1, I believe, with its little Mazda Speed body kit, and it's absolutely awesome, and I expected it to be kind of an off event out of the way of the endurance racing for this car, which, you know, there was exactly that. I believe it takes place in Shanghai at night. But then again, you know, it felt really kind of strange that there's these other random events kind of put in. I really thought this one would be the kind of downtime event away from the endurance racing to kind of break it up. But no, turns out there's a bunch of these. So it kind of just didn't hit the same when we got to the AutoZam, because you've already done a couple of events in different random machinery kind of away from that endurance thing. Then the game will all of a sudden towards the end begin to pick up pace again. You'll go to Mount Fuji, I believe, like 3 races in the row. So you'll have the Bentley, which you're seeing here now. Again, another problem with this car, by the way, was the fact that in this event you'd expect the kind of Le Mans machinery, especially considering this is a new car, you'd think they kind of make that the fastest one going. However, you will find yourself battling with BMWs for the majority of that race, and for some reason they're insanely fast. So you just kind of feel like the Bentley's a little bit underwhelming while you're using it. And the LMP1 cars really just aren't that worth it. Then you'll go into an event like you can see here, where again you stay on Mount Fuji at night, actually driving one of the more impressive cars in the game. This thing is brutal, and my god does it sound good. This personally is one of the highlights of the game. Although it's kind of offbeat, at least it kind of keeps to the Mount Fuji kind of theme of the game, even though it's a bit of a shorter event. And then eventually you'll go back to the Bentley and finish up with another endurance race, which is just kind of weird considering you've just done one pretty much the same in the Bentley previously. They don't actually show you the BMW V12, which is actually in the game, but I can confirm that is a worthy addition, and just didn't feel underwhelming because I actually set that up in my own event and it just felt much better than the Bentley. But I think that's mainly because they put the Bentley kind of trials up against machinery that was kind of quicker than it the first time you ever jump in it, so it was just really kind of strange and just underwhelming to jump in that car. So yes, the story mode does have a few issues and it feels really weird with its pace. Now you also get free kind of sponsor events, so there is new sponsors. You obviously do your standard array of objectives, then get to go into career mode and do a few extra events, kind of all themed around the endurance kind of Mount Fuji theme that they have going on for this one. Again, they weren't too bad, they weren't massively out of place. They were just kind of what you expected. So that's pretty much it really. Obviously you do get the new game mode as such, which is endurance racing, which kind of officially separates the car. However, multi-class has already been in the game since release, so it is kind of weird that it just feels a bit like multi-class with a few little extras in terms of sort of the leaderboards and such like that. So you can actually race for an overall class win now, instead of kind of having to battle all the way through the grid and being in kind of, you know, trying to get to first. So my overall honest opinion on this, I know it sounds like I've been kind of just pointing bits out from the DLC, but honestly it's a worthy addition. It is kind of along the lines of what I wanted. I was really feeling like Grid Legends suits itself to that kind of classic Le Mans style event which we used to get in Race Driver Grid back in 2008, and it does feel kind of along those lines with the multi-event and stuff. The game mode itself, yes, it's absolutely great, especially if you're doing your own custom races. Overall the cars are just as you expect, very well done. They sound absolutely awesome. Probably the weakest sounding of the bunch for me was actually the Bentley. I expected it to sound kind of much better than it was, and I'm talking the Bentley Speed 8. Just didn't quite live up to the kind of sound of the others. The others are kind of what you expect, whereas that one just felt a little bit muted. Obviously it's, you know, they're all recreated in stunning detail. They feel great to drive. Obviously they're not kind of simulated, they're not as realistic feeling, it's not supposed to be like that, but it still maintains that authenticity. Again, it's a really weird kind of choice for the story mode overall. It felt quite kind of off it. I felt like they should have kind of stuck to a theme instead of throwing us around the place and putting us in a bunch of random events. Maybe it only had the downtime with the AutoZam. But yeah, honestly, I loved it. to be honest. It felt good to come back to Grid Legends. It felt good to have a reason. It's not going to last you too long, and to be honest, if you haven't got Grid Legends yet, this is probably not going to sell you on the game. Obviously, the lack of pit stops and fuel usage just kind of, you know, takes away from the endurance vibe. I feel like it's a bit of a missed opportunity there. But if you just want the cars and you want to kind of have a bit extra to do, if you're a massive fan of Grid Legends, then yes, I recommend you picking it up. If you've got the pass, obviously, like myself, you will just get this for free anyway. And to be honest, it's always good to have, you know, them stick to what they've promised in terms of people that have bought that pass. It feels like it's been a long time coming for this DLC, but again, it was just enjoyable from the get-go, from just jumping in and getting used to it. Sponsor events, they are what they are, and it feels like there's kind of a theme to these packs, that this is what we're going to get: a story, some sponsors, 4 cars or so, and, you know, obviously, you know, maybe an extra race discipline. That seems to be the going theme. But yeah, overall, a decent DLC, nothing majorly special. It's not going to convert you if you don't like this format or the way the game is. It's not a massive overhaul, but it's more content for, in my opinion, one of the most underrated games of 2022. So that's my honest opinion. I'll leave you with the outro. Take care, guys. Peace. Oh yeah, by the way, Raven West DLC coming next. See you later.
Well done, champ. Medal looks good on you. There's a t-shirt as well. I got them printed. Nancy, what's your t-shirt size?
I knew this was a good decision. See you back at the garage?